Hello and welcome to the Profitable Coach Podcast. I'm your host, Kimberly Rich, and as the founder of the Bold Life Movement and a fellow coach for more than 7 years, I know the challenges that many of you face when launching or growing your coaching business. And I'm here to pull back the curtain on the coaching industry and help you overcome roadblocks to make the impact you were born to make. Each week, I'll be interviewing successful coaches from every corner of the industry to share exactly how they have managed to generate massive impact and income. From strategy to psychology, we cover it all. This show is presented to you by Transformation Academy, a global marketplace of courses and coaching certifications. So whether you are already part of our epic community or you're brand new to this show, if you're ready to learn what it takes to turn your passion for service into a profitable business, then keep listening. You are in the right place. Welcome back to episode number 55 of the Profitable Coach Podcast. Today I have with me founder of KÄNA Lifeworks and soon to be the Benevolent King series, Mr. Dave Rosenberg. And I'm so excited because this is a conversation that has actually been a long time coming. Dave and I have been in each other's worlds through the Tony Robbins community since 2016. And so I've seen him go through a pretty epic evolution when it comes to personal growth, coaching, and what he calls divine masculine or conscious masculine. And this is what he's decided to become a coach on. He's merging the worlds of somatic coaching with divine masculine and feminine energetics, and he's seeing really profound results with his clients. So I wanted to bring him on today to talk about what it means when you continuously invest in your own growth and your own education, how it is that you can leverage some of those communities to get clients, and how to be the living embodiment of what it is that you coach and that you teach. So if any of that feels like something that calls to you, if you're someone that is ready to start getting clients in an area of life that you're super passionate about, then today's conversation is for you. So without further ado, please welcome episode 55, the one and only Dave Rosenberg. Hello, welcome back to the Profitable Coach Podcast. This is episode number 55 with my dear friend, Dave Rosenberg. Dave, welcome to the show.
Hey, Kim, thanks very much. Episode 55. That's kind of cool.
Lucky number. 5 is my lucky number. No big deal.
Congrats. Yeah. No, it's great to see you. Super excited.
You too. So I'm really enthused about this conversation because I've known Dave for 8 years now. And the way that we came into each other's world is very much in line with what I teach at Transformation Academy, which is create value, put it out into the world, put yourself out there, connect with people that you find inspiring. So Dave actually came upon my friend Jackie's blog post about, what was the topic of that blog post? Do you remember?
I do think it had something to do with men, but honestly, I don't quite remember. I feel
like it did too.
Yeah,
so it's kind of this like beautiful full circle moment because now Dave is a healthy masculinity coach, or that's like one of the elements of the work that you do. And he ended up reaching out to my friend Jackie, said, I love your work. They got to chatting about potentially co-hosting a workshop. And then we all converged at a Tony Robbins UPW, which just goes to show like the power of proximity and in-person events. So I'm really excited to now revisit with Dave and see like what has evolved for you over the past 8 years. And when did coaching like really start to take hold in your life?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of joke like one of my mentors, Alexi Pano, she says that Tony Robbins was her gateway drug. So
totally.
I think Tony Robbins was kind of my gateway drug. I'm trying to think how to keep it short-ish. I guess what happened was I started being coached and I got into a very interesting branch of coaching in somatic coaching. Somatic coaching using body sensations to kind of hack into the subconscious. So what happened was the group I worked with, I had all these awarenesses pop up that it was subconscious becoming conscious. And so my life started to make a lot more sense of my results. And I geeked on it. I'm like, wow, like many coaches, it worked for me and I became a convert. So when I was done the course with my coach, he said, I think you'd be a great coach. Like, would you like to take our training? And I was a fuck yeah. I'm like, fuck yeah. Um, always loved coaching. I mean, I coached my kids in baseball and I coached hockey and I coached all that stuff. But when he said it, it resonated in me. I'm like, oh. And at the time, I was still an entrepreneur running a business in the corporate world. But I had this calling to spirituality that was really loud. And so that was the beginning, I think, of me seeing the value of coaching to understand myself. And I just was like, oh my God, this is so powerful. I'd love to do this with other people.
What was it that drew you to the somatic coaching, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, I wish I had
as a patient or client, I should say.
Yeah, client, yeah. I wish I had a really cool answer for you, like a really deep intellectual answer, but I had a buddy who did it and he was just like, dude, you got to try this. So honestly, I had a friend who did it. He's like, you got to meet this guy and do this work. And,
why do you think he thought you needed it?
Well, we met at a nice guy course. So there's Robert Glover who did No More Mr. Nice Guy, he's a quirky character. He's a psychologist who's really something. And that I met this guy there and we became lifelong friends. And so I knew his patterns, he knew my patterns, and he saw big changes in himself with this somatic work. And it goes a lot further than just mindset or talk therapy. It's deep, deep healing. So I dove in both head first, both feet, everything. And I not only did that course, but then I started to do other courses, other work on a deeper sort of level. Yeah.
Can you explain for people who don't know what somatic coaching looks like an example of what that might entail?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Great question. So somatic means body. So somatic coaching is, I'll give you an example. So someone will come to me with a story about their life, through their conscious mind and their consciousness. They're like, X, Y, and Z happened to me. X, Y, and Z did this to me, et cetera, et cetera. What happens when you do sensations is you cut away all the story, you cut away all the filters. So for example, a tightness in the chest is a tightness in the chest. So what I'll do is I'll share with you a real life example that I did recently. I had a female client who was having a lot of trouble with her personal relationships, anger, frustration, not showing her emotions were all bottled up. So what I do with people is I have them usually close their eyes and just kind of ground down and breathe and center and check in with their body, which most of us don't do. And so I noticed she started doing this. So we call that a flag, right? So she's rubbing her neck. And I just said, I see you've got something going on in your neck. What are you feeling? And she's like, oh my God, it's so tight. Now, what's really trippy about somatic work is often people will have visuals. So I said, look, some people get visuals. Just let me know if you see anything. She goes, oh my God, I see a rope around my neck. I'm like, okay. I'm like, just take a deep breath. I got you. You're good. Loosen it a millimeter. Just give it a little space. And then I asked her the classic coach somatic question. I said, well, who put the rope there? And she started bawling, right? She's bawling. I did. She's like, I did. My dad told me not to cry when I was little. My dad told me not to be a baby. And I choked my emotions off. And I'm only ahead. I'm not below the rope. And then obviously we kind of work with, now I know what to do. So now we either you can do inner child work, you can do parts work, you can do all kinds of things. And inner child is we all have these young parts of us. And parts work is just, we all have these little fragmented parts that are defensive systems that we come up with when we're younger. And I work with those parts to sort of make them all work together is a good way to just describe it quickly. So that's somatics. You get these wild connections to the past that need to be resolved and healed.
I love it. Parts work is super powerful for anyone who has not heard of it. Do you have any books or podcasts that you want to recommend for people who want to go down the parts work rabbit hole?
Yeah, 100%. No Bad Parts is probably the best book. Dick Schwartz. Yeah. I would go with that to start. And then there's all kinds, if you just look up parts work. But yeah, parts work's genius. Yeah. Really cool.
I love it. It's so cool to see all the things that you've dove into since we last connected. It's so fun. Yeah. I want to know how you started the transition or have been managing the transition from entrepreneur, business owner to entrepreneur and coach to full-time coaching. Where are you at in this process?
Yeah, good question. So So what happened for me was I went through my first training and then I kept a couple of clients at a time and it was going really well. And I'll tell you one quick story in a minute about it. What really pushed me to go, no, I'm going to coaching. So I started to make exit plans in my company. And I don't think it's a story for today, but the universe kind of that plan actually crashed quickly and was like, go coach, Dave, like go coach. So as I worked towards being a full-time coach, this is when I came across Elementum, which is a group that taught parts work, inner child work, somatic work, very comprehensive, like 26 modules, 7 months plus, with some pretty famous coaches like Alexi Panos, Preston Smiles, Steph Sifineros, and Christine Hassler, like really top-notch master coaches. But like when I knew I wanted to be a coach, I'll just tell you quickly, from the Tony Robbins actually that you and I were at, I got a call from someone who was married who said, look, are you still coaching? Like she knew I was into coaching. Sorry, it was a later Tony Robbins, but she said, are you into coaching? I'm like, yeah. Can you help me? My husband, I'm ready to leave my husband. I can't stand it. I have a 1-year-old. This is terrible. And I said, yeah, I can help you. After hearing her story, I kind of got a feeling that it was a lot of masculine and feminine energetics. So long story short, we did a 6-month program. I met like him, her together. We worked together and we're on the final call. And on the final call, they're it's for me to go, how did it go? Did you like my coaching? Is there anything you recommend? But they're giggling and elbowing each other. And I'm like, what's going on, you two? And he goes, tell him. And she goes, we're having another baby. And I'm like, I start crying. Like I'm crying. And I'm like, what? They said, yeah, like we're having another baby. And they're still together today and they have 2 lovely children. And I'm like, I got to do this for a living. Like, I mean, this is too important to not do, I guess. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, that's so cool. So at what point did the somatic work and the interest in masculine, feminine dynamics kind of converge?
Yeah, good question. I think it was sort of a slow and steady process.
Okay.
So what I noticed with a lot of my clients, it's funny. I work in healthy masculinity. Like we'll talk about my podcast maybe in a minute, but Breakfast with Manny, healthy masculinity. But my healthy masculinity work extends to women a lot. And so what I noticed is like there's a lot of women that unfortunately have been harmed by the masculine. You know, there's been unfortunate things happen. To be able to heal in the face of the masculine, though, a grounded masculine or a more healed masculine, I've learned is I've had some really magical moments with that. And so what I noticed is a lot of the women were a bit closed off or not able to relax and receive, not understanding. And look, there's a lot of messages for women in the world today. And I think it's just dosage, but like I'm all for it. Go for it. Power, force, kill it, go for it. But also in relationship, have the time to relax and receive as well. Like flex your feminine as well. So they kind of went together. And then when I started working with more women, then I really started to understand how the somatic body of women was holding a lot of tension and holding a lot. So then the masculine feminine energetics kind of interwove with the two.
Yeah.
That's kind of what happened.
That's so interesting. I'm curious how your relationship to your own masculinity has evolved since you started doing this work.
What a great question. It's such a timely question. So it's a brilliant question too. So I think what happened for me as I've kind of gone through this journey is that I noticed I went into a deep healing phase not that long ago of more feminine energy, actually. Like I think Dave Rosenberg needed to really open his heart. That was a big thing. So did a lot of work like family constellation, intergenerational healing work. I did a lot of inner child work. But along the way somewhere, I kind of lost my cool masculine, which when we met, I was probably more fully masculine, right? So I would say I've rediscovered my masculine recently and my fuck yeah. And the energy it's given me has been unbelievable. Like, it's really cool. And, that dovetails into my work with men. A lot of men these days have done what I did. They fell into a little more feminine spot, a little unsure of themselves. The women are more powerful. I don't know what the hell to do. I don't want to interrupt. I don't want to be seen as a predator, all that sort of softer, more hesitant energy. But like now, like I my big part of my practice are with men who are not the men they want to be. And a lot of those men don't have their masculine warrior energy. But again, I would say benevolent warrior, like not.
Love that distinction.
Super important.
Yeah. Because I feel like collectively I've sort of noticed this trend of, okay, we were shifting towards more beta male. Like as a society, let's balance that. And maybe there was a little bit of an overcompensation. So then we were kind of heading towards toxic masculinity, coming back around to toxic masculinity, which is something that our society tried to move away from with the feminization. And so I'm hoping that there's this like balancing out that has happened, or you're helping to usher in. And I imagine you've experienced somewhat of a balancing out as you like learn to play in all these different strengths.
You're so bang on with that. What I would say is, I think the new era is, you nailed it perfectly. It's just a pendulum that's swung in different spots. What I would say is, I think the new era is conscious expression of it. You're fluid. And you're able, and so, funny story, I haven't been dating much, but I just met somebody and we chatted, and I planned the first couple of dates, right? Because I wanted to step up and step in, and she loved it. And she said, like, are you going to do that all the time? And I said, you know what? Not all the time. And so I think the third date, I'm like, I'm feeling like receiving, like, well, what do you want to do? But consciously doing it. And, it can, I'm telling you, like, this marriage that I talked about earlier, like, their literal pretty much only problem was a misunderstanding of healthy and shadow, feminine and masculine. So it's very, very important. And I know you know a lot about it. So yeah, it's super important.
Yeah, I feel like when we met, we were talking about Alison Armstrong and David Data. And I'm curious if other thought leaders or expanders in this space have come into your awareness since then that we can link to in the show notes for people.
Yeah, you know who I would link to, who I really like, and I hope he listens to this and maybe reaches out to me and comes on my podcast, is Connor Beaton. I really like a lot of his work. So Connor Beaton is, I believe, a Canadian psychologist. I hope I'm not wrong. But I'm really into his stuff lately. That's been really, really meaningful. I think one of the people that I think captures both the masculine and feminine energetics, but especially the feminine side, is Alexi, my mentor, Alexi Panos. Yeah. Her stuff on women operating in their masculine too long results in burnout. Like, she's genius at it. And I think Preston, her husband, is really, really great as well with a lot of the masculine force stuff. But, I just want to address what you said about the backlash. Like, I think that's where we saw a lot of movement towards like the Andrew Tates of the world. Like, a lot of guys just felt sort of shit on for a long time. And we can argue the reasons for that. Like, when we read the headlines, there's not great stuff about most. Like, when we hear about pillaging, stealing, cheating, it's mostly men. But men felt a little shit on. So what do? They're like, oh, no, well, no, women are this and this and this. And there's no coming together. There's no collaboration there. And the other person I would mention is somebody who actually was at Tony Robbins. She's into talking a lot about lost femininity, is Nana Ponce-Leon. And I'll give you some links for her. But she's done some work around, a lot of work around it. And she's had some really interesting things to say as well. Really cool. Yeah.
So I want to know, and I'm sure the listeners want to know, when you were first starting to do the somatic coaching, and even today, how did you go about getting clients? This is like the big question for all the new coaches. Like, well, where do I find clients?
Yeah, I'm really glad you asked that, because I think for me, that's clicked in. So I had my first, it's really timely. Like, I signed up 3 clients like last week for the first time in 1 week. So good question. How do you do it? I think most people make a big mistake thinking that it's some kind of marketing effort or some kind of awesome Instagram. And for me, again, keeping in mind my profile and age and all that fun stuff, I think I talk a lot in my work about your being state. So Dave Rosenberg being like balanced masculine, feminine, jacked up about life, super excited about coaching, clients show up, like they show up. So I'll give you an example. So I was at dinner not that long ago, and a lady said, "What do you do?" I'm like, "I'm a somatic coach." I like, "What's somatics?" Boom, boom, boom. She's like, "Maybe you could help me." I'm like, "Well, what's going on?" She's like, "Well, I'm really angry at work." And what I said to her was, I go, "If I may, I'm sure you're not just angry at work." And she's like, "Guilty, my mom, my boyfriend." And so that's like a tiny little piece of coaching, just an observation. She signed up like 2 weeks later because it's just always have conversations. And they're not, the other thing that's super important that I want to stress, it's hard when you start. But if you have an element of neediness in your approach, people energetically will pick up on it. So the other thing that I've
100%.
adapted, like neediness is a repellent. And have I been needy in the past? 100%. It's kind of hard. That's why you need your own coach to kind of clear that stuff out. But I do remember like in instances, like I've switched how I talk to people. So I tell my clients now, like if they're hesitant, I go, if you're not a fuck yeah, then I'm out. You need to be a fuck yeah. You need to be, I'm working with this guy no matter what. And that leads to so much more success.
I talk about this in a couple of our different programs that I lead, Quantum Leap and Coaching Confidence Accelerators. Like, you can be the filter to your clients. They are not just someone that you want to convince to work with you. You need to decide, probably before you ever even get on the phone with them, are they in enough that you even want to get on the phone with them? If they're rating themselves a 2 out of 10 in terms of readiness to invest in coaching, I'm not even getting on a discovery call with you. Like, that's a no. That's a hard no. And I love what you said about being. This is something, again, that I echo on different trainings, is like, don't ask the question, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? It's like, focus on who it is that you want to be. How does that person be? Start being it now, and you're energetically, naturally will draw to you whatever that person would have, whatever it is that you say you desire.
Yeah. So when I did a discovery call, like I also do, like I've kind of gotten away from discovery calls. I just coach now. I just show you, I'll show you. It's like, I'll give you a perfect example. So I had a woman reach out who, this is a super fun one. So she reached out, she had a situation where she had her husband cheat on her. They broke up, but he wanted to come back. And then he came back and then he broke up with her. And so she's like, devastated and saying like, I have to tell all the people that told me not to take him back that he left me. I'm such a loser. I'm an idiot. And absolutely dysregulated. Like like just bawling. So I said, let's just jump on a call. And I didn't really do it to get her business. I just did it because I knew her and she needed help. So the first 10 minutes, I just sat with her and I'm like, and I told her like literally, and I do use a lot of humor in my coaching. I mean, even with this, because she needed to get, I'm like, look, I don't care how many tears and how much snot. I don't care. Like, do your thing. But what was really cool was, and one of the things I wanted to say to your listeners about becoming like a great coach is let your intuitive creativity come out. So I'm a huge fan of that. So what happens to me is, she kept saying the word, how ashamed she was, how ashamed she was. I'm ashamed. I'm like, and out of the blue, like whatever, the universe just popped me. I'm like, I have an idea. So I said, hey, I'll make up a name, Alice. We're going to play a game called Shame Pong. And she's like, what? I go, we're going to play Shame Pong. And so what I did was I had her go first and then I answered. So she said, I'm ashamed I let this guy back in my life. I'm like, I'm ashamed I had an affair on my wife. She's like, I'm ashamed of it. Boom, boom. And I said, we're doing this until we're done. It was literally like watching a gym rack, like 10-pound weight came off, 20-pound weight came off. Her face changed during the whole thing. And so what I want to say about that is like, let let creative intuition guide you sometimes. Let the divine guide you in your coaching. And so, as you can imagine, afterwards, she was like, how much is your container? Right? You know, like it's not selling. Show them what you can do and then let them come to you. And then the piece that's really important, I ask my clients now, I'm like, are you a fuck yeah? Because I'm only a fuck yeah if you're a fuck yeah. And it's really important.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is so much of what I teach also in Sell Like You Fuck. It's the book that I'm releasing this fall.
Oh, nice.
It's a matter of like dating your clients. Like you're courting them, they're courting you. There's no scripts. Like throw out the sales script. Like just add value and then invite them into something that you're really excited about. And if they're excited about it, great, you're a good fit. And if they're not, you're not a good fit, period. You don't want to date someone that you're not a good fit with anyway.
Well, not even that. Like no one likes to be sold anything. No one likes to be sold. People love being heard. They love being seen and they love having their needs met. So like, I don't even consider it sales. Like that's not sales. There's another piece I want to add to this that I noted for myself. I wanted to make sure I got in today. It's very hard to be successful as a coach without absolute certainty, like certainty that you can transform their life. Like,
how do you get that, Dave? Tell the people how to get it.
How to get it? You know what? My answer to that is transform yours first. That's my answer. Transform yours first.
Literally what I said on coaching this week. I'm like, you guys, this is who you need to coach. Past versions of yourself. Don't worry about anyone else. Start there because it's the easiest to speak to. You have the most data. You can get inside their mind. You can tell really powerful stories. You understand where they're coming from.
100%.
So, yeah, I love it.
Yeah. I like I said, I tell people like I know because I've done it, number one. And I know now because I've coached long enough that I've done it with other people. It's repeatable. But I know because I've done it. So certainty is a superpower.
Yeah. I talk about the 3 different types of experts. I didn't come up with this. This is from Brendan Burchard. But expert number 1 is you've gotten these results for yourself. Expert number 2 is you've gotten these results for others. Expert number 3 is you've studied extensively how to get these results. And so we're all at least one kind of these experts in some area of life. And if you're struggling when you're first starting out to coach, just start with something where you're expert number 1. And you'll inevitably become number 2 and number 3.
I love it. Yeah. I love that. 100%.
So what is on the horizon for KÄNA Works and Dave Rosenberg?
KÄNA Lifeworks. So actually I do want to say what KÄNA means because I like energetics of names. KÄNA means ignite a spark and it also means facets of a gem. So my subconscious work is obviously showing people all their facets and ignite a spark self-explanatory, but there's a lot of big things coming. I mean, I recently did a workshop with Alexi and Preston that called Bridge and Extreme, which I can't recommend enough. And I came out of it like a rocket. And so I'm in the middle of planning it all, but I will say this. There's multiple containers that I'll be starting for people online and live that will start to really take me to a different place, I would say. And I got a lot of clarity of just my own sort of abilities to leadership. So there is probably some multipreneurship in there as well.
What does that mean?
Well, it means that I had a chance it's called Extreme Leadership. So I had a chance to lead actually, and it was kind of a funny thing. I won't go into it. It's too long, but, the leadership that I have, like the combination of coaching and entrepreneurship, I want to be involved with ethical companies and guide them to a degree. So like I'll have my coaching business, but I'll also be involved not in a serious way, like not CEO way, but I'll be involved with other companies that are doing ethical things. But
a little bit of corporate coaching. Yeah.
Some of that guiding companies, all that sort of stuff. Yeah. And I will say, I'm going to put it out there because you know how that works, right?
Yeah.
So there's two aspects. First time ever, not even on my own podcast. I'm looking at, so one of the questions I ask men all the time, and I ask myself a lot is, am I the man I want to be? And so I got a download for, I will be looking to create some sort of series around what I call the Benevolent King.
Mm.
So inviting men to step up to be their benevolent king. And
Beautiful.
as somebody who's done it, I just want to deconstruct how I did it and then obviously bring that process to the world, because when I think about the man I was just before I met you, like a few years before I met you, I was a hot mess. Like that was the origins of my rebuild, was my life blew up, you know, had, as I mentioned.
So you were a
earlier,
benevolent king when we met, just for everyone's.
I was on my way to being a benevolent king. on my way. But I'm going to say something, like owning some things it has been difficult for me due to shame and due to self-worth issues. And I'm going to own it right now. I had a woman come up to me, and I'll use the words and excuse me, but I had a woman come up to me at this extreme after I stepped in and led the group. And she came up and looked at me in the eye, and she's like, you know, you're like the perfect blend of spine, cock, and heart. And I was like, I can die happy now. Like there's no greater compliment to me. As a man, I don't think there's a greater compliment. So I think a lot of men out there are struggling with certain aspects of any of those three. And so the Benevolent King is going to be a process for men to really connect their genitals, heart, and spine,
their
right?
Back.
Their
backbone.
Their backbone and their heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. What a compliment.
Yeah.
So what are
really
some,
cool.
I would love to know, like, what are some ways in which you will share this mission with the world? Like, how are you going to get the word out about the Benevolent King?
Yeah, good question. I mean, so I slid into Instagram, which was a bit of a jump for me. I always thought like I was going to avoid that and just do my thing. But, you know, you said it earlier, like proximity. I'm going to leverage my proximity. Like I have big groups of conscious people doing the work that I'll probably leverage that more than anything. That'll be the best way for me to get the word out. And I will say something I think that's kind of funny, but kind of true. I think the best way to get men to be like, come to a Benevolent King program is through women. I think a
100%.
lot of women are like, hey, my brother, you need to go to this program because this is really valuable. And I also see programs where I'd be able to mix men and women, and you know, I could work with someone like you because we think alike. You know, but like men do the men's work, women do the women's work. Maybe cross over. You go with the men, I go with the women, and then bring them all together and share. I just think there's so many avenues to go. And one other thing about being a top coach is you have to continue to be coached. So I've entered a recent container to push myself so I can answer this question better. And it's a 90-day container. So like I also invest in myself like all the time. And I think
100%.
doing your work, going back to what you said about how do you get clients, do your work and be embodied, like embody the work.
That was what I was going to say, is just be the embodiment of what it is that you're teaching, that you are saying you help other people do, because if you can't speak to it, or if you're not in it enough, it's energetically not going to land.
No. Yeah. I've seen that. I've seen that. And it's unfortunate. It doesn't work.
I want to highlight one thing you said, and then I have a question about another thing that you said. So plugging into communities that you already have. So this is just a reminder for anyone who's listening that is not currently part of some container of like-minded people. It's the only way. I mean, otherwise you're literally just like shouting into the void. But if you are in groups of people who see the world as you do, or who are moving towards similar goals, then even if they are not your ideal client, they're likely able to refer you to someone who is trying to do the work, who's trying to become their version of the Benevolent King, versus just like, let me just spray and pray. Let me throw spaghetti at the wall and hope that something works. Like it's not a strategy.
It's not a strategy. I'm so glad you said that. It's so true. And I should tell you, like, sorry, my throat bit, but one of a couple of the clients I just signed are from this meeting I had in Austin, because they felt me.
Yeah, Totally.
They saw me, they felt me. They're like, I assume people don't hire you if you're not, they're like, wow, this guy's legit. So, and not only that, like one of the women at the group I just spoke with today, she wants to get her husband or her boyfriend to work with me. And we spoke today. She's like, tell me more about what you do. And she's like, I trust you completely. Why? Because she felt me. So like people feel you in these containers. So I think it's such a great point.
Yeah. So you're leading me back to the question that I had. A lot of your potential clients will come through women. So how do you actually see that working? Because I have a story that even though it is the women who will see it and be like, oh, I can identify the need. My brother needs this. My husband needs this, whatever. How do they convince the man to go without it being a, you need this kind of thing?
Yeah, it's a great question because I think the problem with that scenario is the energy's not right when the guy's reluctant. So
100%.
I did a program. I can't remember what it was about, but I did a program with like, okay, how many guys are here because your wife or girlfriend told you to come, right? So I guess what I would say is it's on me I have to unlock some kind of inspirational virus. Yeah, for to call these men out to be the men they want to be. And I think it's going to take some work, but it's on me to figure that out.
I love that. The inspirational virus, the outbreak of benevolent kingness.
That's what I got to figure out. Yeah. So that's on me.
Casual.
But like, I'm like, send me your masses. And I mean, I do find again, like your rate, like when you do it the way you said, like you only meet with people that are really ready to coach, etc. But for me, I'll give you an example. I had another woman from my course send me her boyfriend. And so he was a little reticent in the first, I could tell right away. He's like, my girlfriend kind of thought I should talk to you. I'm like, yeah, no problem. What's going on? And so then I just gave him some coaching. Like as I said, it's not really like a discovery call. It's just, well, here's what I see. Tell me what's going on. And then I said, here's what I see. And he was like, wow, okay. Like it was just super accurate because I've seen these patterns a million times, right? Yeah. So he signed up 7 minutes into the call. He's like, how much is it again? And like, so I feel like if I can just get them in front of me and I can explain, the other thing is the vulnerable explanation of my journey from like broken, bad behavior, divorce, affair, crushed business to where I am today, where I do feel as close as I've ever been to being a benevolent king. Mm-hmm. I think that can be really inspiring. I hope.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And one thing that I want to highlight too is, coaching came into your like awareness years and years ago. And it's been a journey, right? I mean, 8 years that we've known each other, and full-time coaching wasn't something that you were doing back then, but it was something you were drawn to. So I just want to honor the journey. I think I started coaching 8 years ago, and throwing my necklace around. I've gone in it, I've stepped away from it, I've come back to it. And so just allowing your coaching experience and your relationship with coaching to be iterative and to evolve, just as anything else in life would. It doesn't need to be like 0 to 100 and never go back. Yeah, that's not realistic.
100%. No, not at all. And I've seen some newer coaches. There's some insecurity patterns with coaching, right? There's the insecurity of overtrying that's really common. Guilty, breakthrough every sesh. Breakthrough, hunting the breakthroughs and the highs. And there's just, again, like once you drop into a little more grounded approach and a trusting approach, you're like, whatever's going to happen on this call is supposed to happen, And I'm training somebody. So I do training for other coaches too. And I have someone I'm training and, it's interesting. Her problem is she doesn't know where to start. She doesn't know which thread to pull. And I just call her out on it. So we look at a video of her call because she asked permission and we look at a video and I'm like, where did you want to start? And she's like, oh, well, I was really interested when he said that part of me. I was going to do parts work. I'm like, you knew,
trust.
You trust yourself. Yeah. Trust yourself. Yeah.
So how did you get into that? Training other coaches to help them be better coaches?
Yeah. Great.
Tell me more.
Great question. So what was interesting, I guess, was in my Elementum cohort, my group, we had certain exercises that, so you kind of, it was a Zoom group, 110 maybe. So we did these 10-minute laser coaching, like, which are really kind of high pressure. And, I coached, I was a previous coach, so it was a little easier for me, but I had a couple of really pretty banger calls. And so one of the people in my course reached out and said, and then I think I coached her once. She said, like, I want to learn more about how you coach. I want to be a better coach. Could you create a curriculum for me? So it was amazing. And what I'm doing is I'm capturing this curriculum, and I hope to train other coaches because I'm really enjoying it. So it's a 1-year container. She signed up for a 1-year container, which is awesome. And we're doing all kinds of fun stuff. I analyze her videos. She analyzes my videos. I coach in front of her. She coaches in front of me. And it's an honor for me to do it. I love it. Like, coaching coaches is super fun.
It's so fun. I feel like I have the best job. I love my TA students so much. They're incredibly heart-centered. They're so committed. Yeah. And this arrangement that you have sounds so, like, precious is the word that's coming to mind. Just like this apprenticeship. So
it's
rich.
So cool.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
A lot of substance.
Super rich. Yeah, it's super rich. And of course, I'm coaching her on her inner resistance, right? Mm-hmm. This lack of confidence and all. We do coaching, but I think the more fun part is she reviews a video of herself. I don't give her my review first. I get her, okay, timestamp me, give me it all. What do you see? And then I do it. And then I give her mine, and then we go together. So it's very precious. It's super fun.
And the other thing I want to highlight is, like, you just made it up, right? You didn't wait for someone to come and be like, Dave, this is how you're going to do this. Dave, you should do this. No, someone came to you with a need. You responded by getting creative, innovative, present, open to what the universe thought this should look like through you. And you just ran with it, which is so cool.
You nailed it. Yeah. And I think that's part of I would argue that's part of benevolent kingness, right? Does a king sit back and go like, oh shit, I don't know what to do? No, I sat down one day, I put together an outline, I sent it to her. She's like, oh my God, I love this outline. In the past, I had a lot of fear, right? I'd be like, what am I doing? But because of the work, I'm just like, fuck yeah. Put a little outline together, threw it to her. She's like, this looks amazing. I'm like, great, let's do it.
I had someone ask me recently, actually, how do you execute on things so quickly? And I was like, well, first of all, thank you. Because historically, I wouldn't have classified myself as someone who did that. I was a little bit more of a perfectionist. I historically didn't complete things. And it's an active rewrite that I'm making in my life of messy inspired action, less thought, more action. I complete what I say. I do what I say. And I just think that, gosh, if I can do it, anyone can. Like, we get to change whenever we want.
Same. But it's really important. This is so
fun. I love seeing us like 8 years later. I'm like, get it, Dave.
Yeah, we're geeking. Yeah, it's super cool. But like, I love your courses. I love what you're describing. Like, you're so bang on. Like, it's so true. And I think the other thing that's really important, like, you had your stories, right? You're like, I don't complete things. And I had a million about me too. And I'll go back to that leadership experience I had. I'll tell a little bit of it. So you have to form like a group for something. I won't say because I don't want to ruin it for people that go. And 2 people were really loud about wanting to be the leader. And I realized, here I am, I'm like, I'm a bit older. I've led a company. I'll let the youngsters take over. And a little bit of the I'm not needed pattern, right? And so it blew up like you've never seen. People, spiritual coaches screaming at each other on this combined project. And so one of them stepped down and I stepped in and I said, hey, everybody, we're going to vote. We're going to do a proper thing. Everybody put a video in the WhatsApp group who wants to be the leader. And I realized, I go, oh, I'm putting myself in too. So anyway, I got voted in, took over, and was able to calm things down. But it's just stepping up is such a massive thing. Like, just step into it. Step into your leadership. So what I realized was my story in my life was like, I'll just hang back a little. So that's what I kind of really addressed recently is like, no, I'm doing that. Action, like just messy action, go.
Yeah.
And the thing is that messy action gives you confidence.
Preaching.
You're welcome. Preaching to the choir.
Yeah. This is some of my favorite part of the work that I do is really just showing people example after example of like this person's back end, total shit show. Guess what? 7-figure coach. Why? Because they take consistent action every day. And you're over here tweaking pixels and worrying about a logo and a domain name. And this person's over here putting themselves in the ring and saying, hey, I'm hosting this thing. You want to come? Let me DM you the link. Like, they're not stressing about a domain.
I'll give you the perfect example. Like, I've never told anybody yet about the Benevolent King. It came to me 2 days ago. But like now I put it out there. So it's happening. I'm like, so I'll put it together. And you know what? The invitation will probably have a typo.
Heck
Who fucking cares? Who cares? Nobody cares.
This is how my retreat in November, same thing. I floated it on a coaching call. 25 people dropped their email and I was like, well, I guess I'm hosting a retreat. Spent the weekend building a sales page. Within 7 days, it was more than 50% sold out. Didn't exist 8 days ago. Didn't exist.
But this is super important for your listeners. Everything you want, I think it was Osho who said, I'm not sure, but everything you want is on the other side of fear, right? I realized before I would have been like, ugh. And then here's the thing. The worst that can happen is you tried and you learned and you failed, in quotes. You didn't do the retreat, but you learned so much. Who gives a shit? Like at the end of the day, I'm learning like it's a zero fucks given era. Like it's fuck it. Go for it. Go for it. Just go. So yeah, it's true. So like here I stand in front of you. I just threw it out. Now I got to create the program.
And the cool thing is I see it.
I will.
In my head, I can see all the branding or like my version of the branding. So it's already like coming into formation in the quantum.
Yes, the quantum. I'm leveraging the quantum because as Preston says a lot, the universe is a yes button. So just be careful what you're asking. But I think for a lot of coaches, like I've met several that have been so in their heads about scarcity. And I know a lot of coaches, and nothing wrong with this. Like if you're a security seeking person, then I have a good friend of mine who I love to death, but she took this job. She took a coaching job at a big firm. For her, it's soul sucking. She hates it. And my question to her is, who are you in this coaching job? Depressed, anxious, miserable? You're not. That's not what we're here to do on earth.
No.
Sorry.
Okay. No. Okay. Yeah. Dave, before we wrap, tell us about the podcast. What was the inspiration for it? How has it impacted your coaching? All the things.
Yeah, good question. So real quick, Breakfast with Manny, there was a kid named Manny. I think he was like 17 when I met him, like 10 years ago. His mother was at my kid's school and she wanted me to mentor him in business. But we very quickly, like I started telling him about Tony Robbins and about Joe Dispenza and about this and about this. And he's like, it's all about life and masculine and feminine energetics and my coaching. And he's like, dude, the world, like guys need to know this. And so not just guys, it's not just for men, but we came up with the Breakfast with Manny because we used to have breakfast together. His name's Emmanuel. So again, in the messy thing, like I didn't worry. I don't even say subscribe in the first season because I didn't do it for that. I just wanted to get it out. I wanted to express myself creatively. And so Breakfast with Manny was born out of my journey from, I think, a not very healthy male to a healthy male. And I want to tell you a really quick, funny story that's one of my favorites. So I was on another podcast talking about Breakfast with Manny and talking about my healing journey. So I get an email out of the blue. And in that statement, I talked about when I was in my younger years, I ran around a lot. I had a lot of anxiety, and I truly feel a lot of my sexual activity was to just settle myself down and selfish. But I wouldn't go too far into like massively toxic masculinity, but not healthy. So I get an email and, hey, Dave, I saw you on Janeline's podcast. I'm really impressed with your healing journey. Yes, you did run around a lot in your 20s. And yes, you did hurt a lot of girls. I was one of them. And like, I had to let that land. It was obviously like a sugar and spice kind of comment, right? It was good and bad at the same time. But I had to let that land. I'm like, whew. And this was a woman I was only with for a month. Like, but it left a lasting impression, negative impression.
Also, what a small world.
I'm like, whoa. So I don't even remember the question anymore because now I'm like, I totally went off on a tangent. But my point being,
you're telling me about Breakfast with Manny. Yeah.
The point being, there's so many things men don't discuss. There's so much about masculine, feminine energetics, vulnerability, heart-centeredness, leadership. There's so many things that a lot of guys are really not talking about. And so if I can help one guy with Breakfast with Manny, and so last piece, I guess, is I've gotten a lot of great comments about it. I think Breakfast with Manny is going to continue to grow. We're starting season 2 tonight, actually. I'm recording after this.
Amazing.
But I would really recommend like this, if you have listeners that have men in their lives, which they all do, and women. I think surprisingly, some of my best comments have been from women.
Yeah, I think they're really important topics.
Well, women are ready for this. Women are ready for men to women have grown and stepped up and changed and shifted. And some of it's great and some of it isn't. And it's all individual. But like a lot of men are not, there's a lot of men that are what I call stuck in neutral. They're like, how's your job? It's okay. How's your marriage? It's okay. I have sex once a month. How's your, like, they're just flat. And I think they can be called forward to be a benevolent king, right?
I had a friend telling me about a podcast episode that he listened to recently where a couple came on and they had done a 180-day experiment of intimacy every day for 180 days. It was like a full commitment. Maybe it was Kim and Ami's podcast. I can't remember. Are you familiar with Kim and Ami?
No, I'm not actually.
Oh my gosh, I will link her up on the show notes. I'll send to you. Yeah, Kim and Ami's like super prominent in the space of like intimacy and sensuality.
Oh, cool.
Anyway, I just thought that if nothing, having the conversation started around how often are we having intimacy? Is that more or less than we want? If it was to be more, what would have to happen? Like,
Bingo.
What kind of commitments do we have to make?
Yes, I love that. You know, look, most men, so a lot of men in the nice guy category especially kill chemistry. They don't understand chemistry. You know, and in the world today, so many men like will do things like send dick pics, unsolicited dick pics, right? Which shows a complete misunderstanding of female sexuality in general, right? Like, just what are you doing? Like, what did you expect? You know, women don't really operate that way. You know, and I have a joke. So it's a little off color, but hey, what the hell? So
we're going there.
We're going to go there. I have a sexuality topic coming up where I'm talking to a man and a woman about healthy masculinity and sexuality. And kind of, it's always been a joke that I kind of refer to it as the blowjob graveyard episode, like, where do they go to die? You know, kind of thing.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
But I mean, it's fun. But at the end of the day, like a lot of guys don't get the sex they want. But it's because they're not the man they really want to be. They're not really, like, are you in the world making a difference? Are you on purpose? Do you have a purpose? Have you ever checked in with your deepest center? Have you ever like done that? Or are you just grinding it out? Because you hear that word a lot in modern life.
Yeah.
Right? Grinding. Just grinding it out. So.
Which sounds terrible.
Doesn't it?
In every sense of the word grind.
Not good.
It doesn't sound like something I wouldn't want to be grinded. I wouldn't want to be grinding.
No. Cool, yeah. So.
Well, so Dave, if you could give our listeners, our aspiring coaches, one piece of wisdom, what would it be?
I mean, I gave some of it up. Some of my best stuff came out during the podcast, right? But
I'm sure you got more.
I would say this. I'm going to go back to it. I just think it's so important. focus on your being state, everything else takes care of itself. If you're passionate,
so when you wake up,
when you wake up and you go, who do I want to be today? Am I going to be the person? Because trust me, procrastination was a thing. Fear was a thing. Freezing was a thing. Who do I want to be today? And what I'll say to your listeners is when I started to focus on my being state, I started going to bed so tired, but so grateful. Going like, oh my God, this is the kind of tired I want to be. This is a shit hot kind of tired. Because I was the man I wanted to be today. And
love it.
I really see it because when I'm out and I'm engaged and I'm energized, I make the world a better place. So for me, I'm going to leave it with the being state. Like just be that passionate, cool, engaged, always searching, questing coach. And it'll come. It'll come.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Dave, where can we go find you? Where can we get more of you?
Yeah, good question. So I'll give you all my stuff to put in my bio, but you can find me. My website is, I redid it with actually a client who does websites. He's like, I want to help you with your website. But
trades abound.
You can hit me up. It's at Dave_KÄNA Lifeworks for IG, for Instagram. You can hit me up at dave.kana, KANA, lifeworks @gmail.com. Beautiful. And you can find me, where else can you find me? Breakfast with Manny. So if you look that up on any of your podcast platforms, we're on Apple, Spotify, the whole deal, YouTube. And yeah, I hope to hear from a few people. It'd be great. I'd love to, again, just have it. Again, it's just a talk and people get to see what you do. And then they're like, the people that work with me are usually, they're just like, it's a fuck yeah. Just like, fuck yeah. So that's where you can find
Awesome. Well, we'll have all of that linked up in the show notes as well. theprofitablecoach.com/055 for my lucky number. Dave, it was so good to see you. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. And it's such a treat to see you on this constant, never-ending, evolving path.
Thank you. Yeah. And honestly, Kim, it's so great to reconnect and just hear about your philosophies too. Like, I'm so proud of you and it's just, much love. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to episode 55 of the Profitable Coach podcast. If you want to get access to any of the resources that we chatted about in today's conversation, head over to theprofitablecoach.com/055. We talked about everything from Connor Beaton to No Bad Parts to Alexi Panos to Dave's new program, the Benevolent King. So if you want to get in touch with Dave, go to theprofitablecoach.com/055, get access to all his contact information. And thank you so much for listening. Let us know, what did you love about today's episode? DM me over on Instagram at @thekimberlyrich or at Transformation Academy online and let us know what was one of your top takeaways. We absolutely love hearing from you guys and we're sending you so much love. We'll catch you on the next episode.